Hello and welcome to the new podcast, Syndicated Vomit, where we talk about all sorts of television shows, episode by episode. I'm your host, Mac Taylor, and today I'm very excited to be not only talking about The Mandalorian, but to get this podcast rolling, back into motion, back in the saddle. I feel really good doing this again. Um, I was hoping for this to be video, but until I get my computer built, it's clear that that's not going to be an option. So for the first few episodes, we're going to be doing the old audio only version, but hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll have the video version available for you guys as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's kick it right into gear as we talk about the first 4 episodes of The Mandalorian Season 1. Obviously, going into this, it's Star Wars. It doesn't take a lot to get me to watch a Star Wars related thing, whether it's a show, a movie, anything. If it's Star Wars, I'm probably there. And this was the show that, for a lot of people, sold their Disney Plus subscription, but for me, I was going to get it regardless. But this was just a thing for me to watch on it. And I was very excited. I didn't really know what to expect from a Star Wars live action TV show. And then they fucking blew it out of the water. This thing was amazing. And now let's talk about it. So episode 1, we start off and we are introduced to the titular Mandalorian as he kind of walks in all like cool, calm, and collected and gets into this bar fight with these guys over a particular bounty that he's after. And man, he looks fucking cool. He's whooping ass. He throws a guy. He cuts him in half with the fucking like futuristic kind of slidey door that just kind of like opens and closes robotically. Cuts a guy in half with that. I'm like, ooh shit! Like immediately we're starting out like this guy's a fucking badass. It really just kind of sets the tone just for how legitimate the Mandalorian is. So he takes his bounty, who's kind of like, originally was like, oh my god, this guy saved me. And then he's like, oh no, he's not. He's still going to arrest me. And then we're introduced to Brian Posehn, who's supposed to take them across to Mando's ship. And they're warned that there's like a monster in the ice. And already I'm like, ooh, we're starting off with a lot of really cool shit here. And then we get a motherfucking ice tremor. It looks like a tremor with like walrus tusks, and it's really fucking cool. And it jumps out and it kills Brian Posehn, and then attacks Mando's ship. And Mando, super calm, doesn't even panic, just shocks the thing back into the water and goes on his merry fucking way. Which again, all this stuff in the beginning here, before this is like all the opening before the title sequence. It's all just to set up, how kind of tough this guy is. Because, we've never seen this character before, never heard of this character before, need to establish that. And they do a good job without anyone really talking much. Like, he's just doing shit to establish it. It's showing, not telling. And that is like key in storytelling. So once they're on the ship, the guy pretends like he's going to the bathroom and tries to escape, only to be frozen in carbonite, which we all know from Empire Strikes Back what that's like. And I thought that was a really cool, like, nice little addition to throw in the carbonite captures. And also, like, there's a mention of Life Day. It's not super relevant. He's just talking about Life Day, and I'm like, they're really doing a lot with the lore of Star Wars here, because one of the things that interests me most about Star Wars is the non-Jedi related stories. We have so many hours of content dedicated to Jedi and the Sith and the all that stuff, and it's nice just to get the regular fucking people. That's why I love Rogue One so much, is because it's the other people. They're not, magical heroes. They're just kind of regular people fighting this war that's very real to them. And this is also another story that really compels me, because it's a bounty hunter. Like, he's not really, he's not the typical hero you see in the story, And it really does as Star Wars is meant to be like a space western, this, more than anything in the Star Wars universe, feels like a western. As the Mandalorian seems like a very Clint Eastwood type of character. So he freezes the guy in carbonite and drops him off to Carl Weathers' character, whose name is Grief Karga. But every time I see him, I'm like, hey, it's Carl Weathers. Like, I can't. That's like a bad thing I have, where I can't. Like, sometimes if it's an actor or actress, I just know a lot of their stuff. I will just, when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, it's that person, and I won't pay attention to their character name. Which, to be fair, there's a lot of names in the Star Wars universe I don't know, because a lot of the times they barely mention it. Like, they just have conversations with people, and we don't really know their name. You have to Google half their fucking names. So, I don't think they ever said Grief Karga. I just looked that up on IMDb. And we also get introduced to the time period, because going into this, I didn't really know like when in the Star Wars timeline this takes place. So this takes place shortly after Return of the Jedi. So the Empire has fallen, and now it's like people in the world are dealing with the fact that like the Empire's gone, but that there's still a lot of bad people around. Like, change just doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, we defeated the Empire. Good things can happen, but it doesn't mean everything's just gonna reset in a day. Like, there's a lot of time has to be spent changing things. So there's just a lot of unknown right now for people. And times are tough too, because a lot of people were getting jobs because of the war. Now there's not a war, so there's less to do in the galaxy, particularly with bounty hunting, because there's no one's putting money out to capture rebels or things like that. So like the jobs are more scarce in the bounty hunting community. But he gets his new assignment from Carl Weathers. And he we go to the village, and you kind of see like the hard times in the village. We also see like that little monster that like sat on Jabba's stomach in Return of the Jedi is like roasting on a spigot. And there's like another one in the cage. And I don't know why. Like, it's little details like that, man. Like, that really like drive me into the show. Because I'm like, oh, that's the thing from episode 6. Or like, oh, that's the thing from fucking Clone Wars. Like little shit like that. Makes it seem like such a bigger thing than just movies. So on his journey to find the new bounty, he meets up with a Nick Nolte character, who's basically retired, out wants to have like a peaceful life out in this desert, and this where the bounty is, these bad people have stirred up a lot of trouble, and so he's willing to guide the Mandalorian, because the Mandalorians are like myths. Like, people talk about how cool and badass the fucking Mandalorians are, and he just kind of wants to help out the Mandalorian because like he wants to be part of that story in a way. And he gets Mandalorian to ride these. They kind of look like giant tadpoles with legs, like a reptilian, non-water version of that. And like it's mentioned that they eat their mates and stuff. It's kind of cool, but he's basically got to teach him how to essentially ride a horse. And they takes Mando over to where he's supposed to go. And immediately when he gets there, there's an IG bounty hunter droid, which we saw one in, I believe, Empire Strikes Back, when all the bounty hunters are assembled, and but with Boba, we see an IG unit. So, but we never actually seen one in action. We've just saw like that character in the background. And so he's like, why are there other bounty hunters here? Like, it's been mentioned a couple of times that there's some shady shit kind of happening, and he's like, I don't know why all these bounty hunters are getting sent after this one target. So him and the IG unit team up. They're like, we'll split the bounty. We'll get this done. And they the IG unit's pretty cool because it just takes shots and just kind of fires around, like it's not human, so it can take a little more damage and be a little more reckless. Whereas Mando's more precise with his shots, and we see like his cool ass disintegrating gun and shit. And they get in a fight, and all of a sudden this turret comes out, and they're like, "Fuck, like we're done." And the IG unit's like, "Well, I'm gonna self-destruct," and he's like, "No, we're not self-destructing. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna get through this." And like every couple minutes, it's like, "Yeah, I think I'll self-destruct now." And he's like, "Stop saying that. You're not blowing up. We're fine." And he goes and he takes out the turret in a really cool way. Like he whips it around and like knocks the guy off and shoots all the other people with the turret. They shoot through the door and they find their asset, which is, and this is like the big thing people talked about in the premiere episode, is that the bounty is supposed to be 50 years old, and it's a little baby Yoda, little baby Yoda, if you will. And that kind of changes some shit because killing babies is kind of hard to do for most people. And the IG unit goes to kill the baby, and boom, Mando fucking shoots the IG unit in the head, kills it, and immediately takes the child. They kind of touch fingers, and that's the end of episode 1. And what a fucking way to premiere a show, man. I mean, really, like that first episode, I remember that I watched it the day it dropped, and I went bananas. Like, I fucking lost my shit because we've never seen any other of Yoda's species. We just know Yoda. We don't even know what they're called. So to see another one, we're like, what the fuck is that? Like, so many questions and no answers. Like, we need it. I don't know, but yeah, we got 2 really badass fight scenes with the Mandalorian. We got the reveal of Baby Yoda. We got Nick Nolte's character. We got Carl Weathers' character. We got that cool little opening with the carbonite and seeing his lifestyle and shit. We see stormtroopers. We see people in the Empire still trying to do shady shit, even though they're not in charge anymore. Like a lot. Like this 40 minutes of television covers a lot of ground and really sets the tone for how the show's gonna go. So with that, we're moving into episode 2, The Child. Which, yes, until season 2, Baby Yoda is called The Child. So, if I say The Child, you should know what the fuck I'm talking about. So we start off, and Baby Yoda and Mando are ambushed by other bounty hunters, and he sees that there's still bounty hunters being sent after this bounty. And he's like, what do people want with this kid? It's a baby. Why are people trying to murder it? Like, and it makes sense. Like, I know we know it's a baby, like a little baby Yoda, but a lot of people in the galaxy may not know who Yoda is. It's that kind of Jedi lore. And it may be like stories, but I don't think no one knows what Yoda looks like. Like the grand public, doesn't really know what he looks like. It's been a long time since he's died, and it's been a long time since he's been, off his planet. So it's probably just legends and stories, but no one knows what a baby Yoda is. No one knows what Yoda is, for the most part. So, like, Luke didn't even know what he looked like when he went to search for him. So, it makes sense. I know we at home are like, oh my god, it's a baby Yoda, but he's just like, it's a baby. Like, what? Why? So, I kind of like that little... I thought a lot about that. Like, I kind of lost some sleep thinking about that. So, then, when he comes back from the ambush, Jawas have stripped his ship. And he chases after them and, like, crawls up the sandcrawler and gets knocked off. But he throws some motherfucking Jawas to their deaths, like, and vaporizes a couple of them, too. So he murders the fuck out of some Jawas, but they get away with his shit. So he's pissed. And he meets back up with Nick Nolte, because where else is he supposed to go? And he's like, all right, we'll go talk to the Jawas. You can't just kill the Jawas. You got to talk to the Jawas. And he goes and makes a deal that the Jawas will give him the parts back if he gets this egg. They just say the egg. And he's like, okay, I'll go get your egg. Give me my fucking shit back. And so he goes and he finds, it's like a giant rhino. Like, it's a big rhino with like a long ass horn. I think they call them mud horns later on. So it's a mud horn, which makes sense. It lives in mud, has a horn. Okay. And it's a big motherfucker, and it whoops Mando's ass. Like, he can't manage to get a hit on this thing. It's beating his ass. And, it's coming at him. It looks like it's going to, maybe kill him. And the child holds out his hand and uses the force to lift up the mudhorn just long enough for Mando to stab it and kill it, before he passes out. Because obviously, with that amount of force use would knock a baby out. Like a baby, most teenagers couldn't use that kind of force ability. So clearly this creature is force sensitive. So he gets the egg, and he gets it to the Jawas, and they cut it open. They're eating like this weird, like orange. It's like orange yolk. Like, it's obviously egg yolk, but it just looks like gel, like ooze. It doesn't look like yolk. And we get a little bit of Baby Yoda being cute, eating a frog. Like, he chases a frog and eats it. That's like most of the Baby Yoda shtick, is he's super adorable. So they get the ship stuff, and Nick Nolte helps him repair it, and then sends him on his way. Just as a thank you for bringing peace to where he lives now. And that is the end of episode 2. Not a lot. Obviously, the first one jammed a lot of stuff because a premiere has to really start off strong to get people invested in the show. And episode 2 really just kind of like really, if you break it down, gets the child, Jawas take his shit, he gets the shit back from the Jawas. Like, it's 3 simple beats. But, after as much shit as we crammed into that premiere, like, it makes sense to really dial it back. Like, it was still a very enjoyable, visually appealing episode. Just, like, we've got to make, 10 episodes out of this. So let's not, get everything out in the first couple. So then we get to episode 3, which is called The Sin. And basically drops off the child to the bad people, the Empire people. And he takes they get paid in credits and like metal. So it's like metal with the Imperial logo. And he gets the Mandalorian lady to make some new armor. And him and this other Mandalorian get into a scuffle about, he's like, you're taking money from the Empire. They're the reason we have to live down here. And, that's fucking, have some pride, you dick. And he's like, fuck you, dude. And then the chick's like, hey, we're together here. Let's not, fight each other. There's enough people that want us dead. Let's not also want each other dead. And they keep saying a lot of, like, this is the way. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, give the extra metal to the foundlings. I'm like, yes, this is the way. This is the way. Just like Nick Nolte's character always says, I have spoken. Like, the Mandalorians always say, this is the way. Just a fun little plot detail. So he goes to get a new job from Karga. And before he even leaves to that, he's like, I'm going to go get this kid. Like, the whole time he feels guilty about giving this child up to the former Empire. It's like, what do they want with this kid? Like, I can't just let a kid get murdered. So he goes into the compound and fucks up some stormtroopers. He's snapping necks. He's, throwing hands. He's fucking, using his zappy gun. Like, he's doing all sorts of crazy shit to these stormtroopers, man. Using his flamethrower out of it. He has, like, a flamethrower in his wrist. He has, like, just a multi-tool of weapons. And he also uses these things called whistling birds that, like, he fires out of, like, from his wrist, and they just scatter everywhere. It's like little little seeking bullets. Let's kill all the stormtroopers. And then Carl Weathers and the guild bounty hunters attack him because they knew he would go after the child. And they're like, hey, this is not regulation for bounty hunting. We're going to fuck you up. And he doesn't. He ends up fucking them up. But there's so many of them. He's like, I can't take like 80 people. And then all the other Mandalorians show up. They come out of their hiding spot, jetpacks and all sorts of other shit, and just with the turret and everything. And they're just fucking up all the bounty hunters, because one Mandalorian can take out like 20 bounty hunters, but like 30 Mandalorians can take out a whole army apparently. Carl Weathers gets into a brief scuffle with Mando and gets shot by the Mandalorian Mando got into a brief altercation with. And you think he's dead, but like we pan down and we see that he had the one of the Imperial medal things from the bounty hunter in his shirt, and that took the laser blast. So he's still alive, and we know he's going to come back to kind of come at Mando again one of these days. So it's like we have a threat still out there, and Mando's fucked up in a way because he can't go back to bounty hunting because he's pissed off the whole guild. He's pissed off the Empire, or what was formerly known as the Empire. You know, a lot of people would prefer if he was now dead. So he takes the child and knows he must go into hiding. And again, like, not a lot happens in this episode. If you break it down, he drops off the child, goes and gets the child again. We have a couple of fight scenes, and then we're moving on. Like, again, not a lot in theory, but a lot is in there because, you know, we get all this character development in a way from the Mandalorian because he feels guilty. He's not going to leave this kid behind, and he goes to do all this stuff. And the Mandalorians are willing to back him up on his decision. And that brings us into the fourth and final episode we'll be talking about in episode 1 here of Syndicated Vomit. And that is episode 4, Sanctuary. And we start off, we have this like quiet krill fishing village that is invaded by these kind of Viking-looking motherfuckers. And they kind of take it over, and that's like our intro scene. Like, you know, it's nice, quiet, everyone's fishing, playing, and then boom, explosions, fire, death. All of it, whole nine. Mando's basically looking to lay low, and Baby Yoda's being all cute, pushing buttons on his ship and shit. He's like, stop playing with it. It's not a toy. And he kind of looks at him and just pushes a button. It's adorable. Completely adorable. So he gets to this krill village and meets this girl, and he's like, why is she here? She looks like a rebel trooper. And he goes outside, and they have a fight because she thinks he's after her. And after their little scuffle that ends in a draw because they both have their guns drawn on each other, he finds out she is a former rebel shock trooper. And after the war, you know, there's nothing for the rebels to do. Like, they won. The rebellion's over. So what does a soldier do? Like, she says, you know, they got her doing like police work, like, you know, stopping riots and, you know, answering, like, protecting people and stuff. And she's like, it's not what I signed up for. I signed up for a fight, and there's no fights left to be fought. So she's basically in early retirement. And her name is Cara Dune. Again, I had to look up people's names because it's not overly stated. And the townspeople approach Mando about saving them from these barbarians. And they have like a little bit of money that the town collected, and he's like, look, that's not enough. And they're kind of like, oh, like, we drove out here for a day, and he's like, all right, help me load shit up and I'll go. Because, again, he has, like, this conscience. Like, he feels bad. Like, he's a bounty hunter, I guess, but he has this, his own code of, like, what's right and what's wrong, and he won't compromise that for being a bounty hunter. And that's an interesting character dynamic, because most bounty hunters are not that way. So he's like, all right, I'll do it, but I got to get Kara too, because yeah, if a Mandalorian and a Rebel shock trooper can't get rid of these guys, I don't know who can. And so he goes and he stays with this local woman who's like totally wanting to fuck this guy. Like, this girl is throwing down the vibes about fucking the Mandalorian. Like, hardcore. Like, you feel it. She's like, have you ever taken off your helmet? And like, ever since you were a child, you've had your helmet on in front of people? Oh my God. She's like, people like you here. You might be able to stay here. Like, she wants to fuck the Mandalorian. And I think he kind of wants to fuck her too. But it doesn't happen. It's not that kind of show. This was like Game of Thrones. They'd have fucked. Just saying. We need more Star Wars people to fuck, okay? It's okay. It's okay to be a hero and fuck. You can do that. So we also get a little bit of the backstory on the Mandalorian, as he is, he was orphaned. His wherever he lived was attacked, and his parents were killed, and he was taken in by the Mandalorians. So that's why he finds the Findlings, which I guess are other orphans they bring in. They're so precious to him because I know the future he was one of them. So he has a soft spot for this kind of stuff. Then him and Kara learn that it's not just barbarians. They have an Imperial Walker, an AT-ST, which is like the slimmer version of an AT-AT. So it's not like the one on Hoth that's like super fucking girthy. It's more, it's just a lot. It's like really long legs and like a small compact body. It's like kind of, I believe it's what you see in Jedi. And those things are really fucking hard to take down. It takes a lot of work. It's a giant, walking tank. It's, it poses more trouble than they thought going in. So they were like, immediately like, yeah, no, we can't do this with two people. And the townspeople are like, train us to fight. We'll help you fight. Like, and you gotta love the moxie. Like, these people got moxie. I like it. Amanda's like, fuck it. We'll train them how to fight. We'll see what we can do. So we get like a little montage of, them like training people with sharpened sticks, and like some people try to shoot the guns, and they set up a trap. They want to get the AT-ST to step into the like little lagoon so that it'll go into the water, and then they'll blow it up. But they have to get it down to take it out, like, because if it keeps at a distance, they're screwed. So the people come, like, Mando and Kara go into the barbarian camp, start a whole bunch of shit, bring him back to the village, and the AT-ST goes right up to the water and stops and just starts fucking up everything. And they're like, oh my God, like, we can't hold this much longer. It's blowing up, houses and huts, and shit's going wrong. So Kara runs out into the water. She draws the fire from the AT-ST. Super badass hero moment. And it slips, steps into the lagoon, bam, hits the ground, boom, blows that bitch up. We're good. They fuck up the barbarians. They take the town back for the people. Real good celebratory moment. And also, it was really fucking cool that scene happened at night. Because the way the AT-ST looked, because I'm pretty sure it was black. And it has these like red like lights that look like eyes. And it just looked super menacing and awesome. That was the first thing. Second thing, the whole fight scene in general was super fucking awesome. Very well directed. I believe Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode. I saw her name in the credits. I was like, you go, Bryce Dallas Howard. You're taking up the Ron Howard way. You act in a whole bunch of successful shit, then you slip into directing. Like, fucking bravo. And so they win the battle for the people, and the woman who wants to fuck the Mandalorian is like, stay. You and the child can live here. And he's like, nah, I'm going to leave the kid here. I got to go. And then someone tries to snipe the kid, and Kara kills that bounty hunter. And so it's clear that wherever the kid goes, trouble's going to follow. So he takes the child with him and leaves, this settling down life behind. And that kind of ends our little time here for Syndicated Vomit. And you know what a fucking trip those episodes were, man. I had a blasty blast. I haven't watched them since they aired. And a part of doing this podcast, I watch shows I have never watched. I watch shows I've watched before to get a fresh perspective. All that stuff, you know. I just want the whole picture, because I'm just so obsessed with television and movies that I have to just talk about every little detail. And this is my outlet for doing it. I hope you guys really enjoy this ride as much as I do. I love Star Wars. Can't wait to keep the Mandalorian train running. Let me know what you guys thought of the first 4 episodes of Mandalorian. You know, what were your thoughts and opinions on these 4 episodes? Comment that below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I don't only do this podcast. I do the Film Vomit podcast, which will be returning shortly, and the new Reality Vomit podcast, which will also be airing soon. So you got plenty of podcasts going to be released, and on top of that, I got movie reviews coming out and my own written, directed, acting in shorts and skits that'll also be posted on the channel very soon as well. 2021 is going to be a very, very busy year for myself, and I am very excited to share this with you guys. So again, don't forget to do all that garbage about the like, subscribe, bells, all that fun stuff, and most importantly, stay nerdy. I'm Mac Taylor. See you next time.